Rob, welcome to the show. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the listener, let them know what you're working on, and we'll get started from there?
Yeah, sure, Caden. Thank you for having me. So I'm Rob Petrozzo, the founder and chief product officer here at Rally. So we're basically like a stock market for collectibles, but in reality, it's this community that's been built around all these really, really interesting and important cultural artifacts. And that's everything from dinosaur fossils from 65, 70 million years ago, all the way up to modern NFTs and collectibles in the digital space and intangible assets and classic cars, trading cards, all these things that evoke emotion. We built an app that kind of lets you trade those individual assets the same way you would stock, but it's really built this community around shared interests and investing in things that you love. And that's been life for the last 7 or 8 years. Other than that, it's just waking up every day and trying to figure out how to design things better.
So, what was the insight you had to make the rally marketplace? I have my opinions about this, and I find this super interesting. But yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate. You know what? It's part of it. Like everyone has their opinion on money, but the things that matter, and especially when it comes to sort of things that they collect and the things they care about, and where they put their interests and their time and their hobbies. When we first started building this out, there was intense polarization between myself and my co-founders about the things that mattered. For me, in an era where art and design were very tangible and it wasn't a digital space yet, that's always been the most important part of my life. And when I thought about like things I wanted to collect when I was older, it was always things like Andy Warhol paintings. My co-founders, it was a mix of baseball cards. It was classic cars and classic Porsches was always his thing. And for us, it was like, all right, my thing's more important than your thing is more important than your thing. But in reality, they're all part of this shared interest that we have as collectors, but everybody has their thing. Everybody nerds out on one thing. So that was kind of like the impetus from a product and design perspective about building something that put all that in one place. And then from the finance perspective, these were things that we knew were important, but owning any of them, the best versions was always kind of out of reach. Because if you wanted to own the best classic car or a Mickey Mantle rookie card or an original Warhol, you had to have money, you had to have connections. It's really easy to get kind of duped in the collectible space. If you're trying to find something, you just come with either money or text somebody who has it and try to buy it. So it was all these kind of roadblocks at that point too. In 2015, 2016, we really started putting this on paper. Robinhood was starting to catch a wave and retail investing became something that people cared about. Coinbase and crypto were starting to be in the conversation. And that was this method at retail to purchase cryptocurrency. Collectibles and alternative assets still didn't have that. So we matched kind of the interest that we had individually in that polarization that started the conversation. This huge need that we felt like was in the market that for us would have been an awesome way to interact with the things that we cared about. Then we smash those two things together and you start working on it. And then becomes a company and a real business pretty quickly after that.
This sounds very similar to the TED Talk that the founder of StockX gave when he was explaining why he started StockX, which was that uh, the sneakerhead movement was basically a unsecured uh, commodities market or asset market. Didn't have any regulating body, but there was forums and websites keeping track of like the value of collectibles. In this case, Jordan.
Yeah.
He had the insight that there was objects out there that were an appreciating asset. And so he had a similar insight, and that's where StockX came from. I work currently in agriculture. People love their strawberries. Sugar, fun fact for the listener, Peru is probably the largest exporter of like fruit because of its climate. But it's like shoes or anything physical. It's a asset that's worth millions of dollars for only a few days, and it could go to zero if it gets damaged in
Yep.
transit, right? And so, there's stuff that's sometimes when it's not like a stock certificate, people think like, oh, there's no value in something. But if there's a market and there's raving fans, there is some level of investment into physical objects. I think
No,
art's the
no
best
question.
example.
Yeah, art and real estate have always been the easiest ones where people look at them and say, all right, there's this tangible asset, but I know it goes up in value. It's got hundreds of years of history. There'll be small blips on the radar where they get down moments, but it's something that people look at and have always said, like, all right, I understand this as an investment. With Josh Luber from StockX, who him and I are from the same generation, share a lot of that same ethos. There are these huge groups of people who are paying attention to something like Jordans or specific sneakers all day, every day. And whether they're not necessarily spending millions of dollars on them, even if they're spending hundreds, they can still tell you every single thing about that asset, about that item. It's their life. It's in every group chat. They were on those forums in the late 90s, early 2000s. It became their life. So it was something that they were doing anyway, no matter what. And they know exactly what the top of the top is. They know what the bottom looks like. They know what the middles are, and they find their place. I think agriculture is the same way. When I walk into Whole Foods or go into California, and I don't go there to spend money, I'm just going to like understand what's happening with consumers.
Yeah.
There were like, strawberries is a good example. Like there are these beautiful princess strawberries that are these wildly expensive strawberries that to me are like it's become an aspirational strawberry. I hope I get to a point that I could spend $300 on strawberries. When I look at the packaging, I look at the way that it's being presented, I see the people that are buying it. It's this whole other world. Art, cars, even some sneakers. But I do know a ton about it, and I've invested so much of my life in it at this point. So for us at Rally, the thought process was that there's always going to be that $300 strawberry somewhere, but I want to get people there as quickly as I can because they are already armed with the information. It's something that they care so deeply about. If we could design something that allows them to get that access and have some of that ownership, then the rest of it will kind of fill itself in. That's always how we've looked at it.
Yeah, I don't remember where I heard the quote, but um, there was an art collector explaining why art is so valuable. Why would someone pay 3 million for a painting? So I'm butchering the story here, but he said something that really impacted me and influenced how I operate as a product designer is that they're not buying the painting, they're buying the story
No question.
behind the painting.